AskReddit by Dynamite. What's the greatest example of someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time? Years back, in Omaha, Nebraska, a guy was riding a bicycle down the street. Out of nowhere a huge tree limb fell and killed him. No whines. Calm day. That reminds me of the old news story about a guy roller skating across the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Tampa, fell and was killed by a bolt of lightning that struck him on a clear sunny day. Not a cloud in the sky. Walked in on my boss getting his noodle wet from one of my co-workers under his desk. That's when you say, I just came in to speak with you about the enormous raise you're about to give me. An Air Force KC-135 crashed in 1987 practicing for an air show, killing all crew on board. One crew member of that aircraft was not flying that day. I don't recall why. However, he decided to go out to the airfield and watch the show, and the mishap aircraft crashed on him. That's some Final Destination shit right there. I have been arrested for bank robbery twice. I have never robbed a bank, to be clear. Which is exactly what someone who did rob a bank would say. It's Tsutomu Yamaguchi, who experienced both atomic bombs. He was on a business trip in Hiroshima when it was bombed, then went home to Nagasaki and was there when it was bombed. Although he suffered from injuries and radiation poisoning, he survived until age 93. Yes. He went back to Nagasaki and told his boss about the bomb in Hiroshima. His boss didn't believe it and thought he was crazy. Right after that, the Nagasaki bomb exploded. One day at my mom's workplace, a guy she worked with switched shifts with her. He told her that he wanted to switch because he planned on going somewhere for dinner that night with his wife. That night a group of guys came into the store, robbed the place and murdered my mom. We would hear rumors over the years that he knew and had been threatened before by one of these murderers, and that was why he didn't want to work that night. But nothing could ever be proven. That's terrible. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm watching OJ Made in America and I nominate poor Ron Goldman. Sadly true. I've heard stories that people jumping from the World Trade Towers were landing on other people. Since I assume people nearby would run away from the Twin Towers when the first tower got hit, it means that the people that got smashed just managed to escape from the building itself. I can imagine that their last there was few. I'm safe. Richard Jewell 1996 Olympics. Right timing was him finding the backpack. Wrong time is he had to defend himself from accusations he was the bomber. People doing everything possible to avoid having to believe that the actual bomber was a white conservative Christian terrorist. Aeschylus was a Greek playwright who had heard a prophecy that he would die from a falling object. Subsequently he spent as much time outdoors as he could where an eagle dropped a tortoise on his head and killed him. The construction workers who were on the bridge in Baltimore that collapsed a few weeks ago. The Port Authority closed the bridge when the Mayday call went out. They were patching asphalt and had taken a break not knowing such a thing was happening. A Port Authority officer started on the bridge to warn them, but the bridge collapsed before he even could start. Franz Ferdinand. Dude got a Scottish rock band named after him. Truly the greatest tragedy to come from his death. Ron Goldman, who got killed attempting to return a pair of sunglasses to O.J. Simpson's ex-wife. Wait, I thought it was understood that they were lovers. Austin Hatch. Austin Hatch survived 2 Chicken basketball / 3,658,663, plane crashes that killed 5 members of his immediate family. In 2003, he endured a small plane crash that killed his mother, sister, and brother. His father, an anesthesiologist, was the pilot of the aircraft Austin's father lived to fly again, which eventually turned to tragedy in 2011. He piloted another small plane to a fatal crash. Austin's father and stepmother did not survive. Austin, However, made it out again. He was in a coma for 8 weeks and suffered a number of other serious injuries that made total recovery seem doubtful. I feel so bad for him. Anyway, now his famous basketball player. I'm starting to think his father wasn't a great pilot. Wile E. Coyote. Any number of times. Boulders, trains, pianos, vehicles, you name it, he probably got killed by it at least once. That made me laugh. A friend of mine had just moved into a new home. She was murdered in her home 1 week later. Someone hired a hitman to murder the previous homeowner and the hitman killed her instead. This happened to my friend's parents as well. They were super nice people that I had worked with a few times as a computer tech. Moved into a house and were murdered by hitmen within the same month. My brother was caught twice in different married women's beds. He did not know they were married. I know that because I was at the bar with him both times. He got beat the fuck up the first time, and the second guy just filmed on his phone. For evidence or? When my sister was in high school, she was driving and a woman in another car passed her going in the same direction. A quarter mile up the road they both stopped at a red light. A fully loaded cement truck going through the green light on the cross street lost control as it was going through the intersection and creamed the driver's side door of the woman in front of my sister, killing the woman instantly. My sister only had bumps and scratches, but her car was totaled from the flying debris. My sister got lucky because the woman passed her and wound up in the wrong place at the wrong time instead of my sister. This happened in the early 80s. I still think about that sometimes. William Mayberry, 1985. He was driving his 1971 Toyota Celica by DFW Airport when Delta Flight 191 was hit by wind shear while on approach. The plane was pushed down to Highway 114 and the left engine hit his car and killed him. A second earlier or later would have been just a crazy story. Archduke Franz Ferdinand. If you wrote it in a movie, it would be over the top. I Know the King's Man, prequel to the Kingsman movies, took place during WWI and had a humorous segment on the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. Seriously, what a shockingly amusingly horrible string of events. Could be considered both ways, but I always think of the guy who got busted cheating because of 9/11. He was supposed to be at work in one of the Twin Towers that day, but instead was off in a hotel with his side dish. They were too busy fucking all morning to know what was going on, but after the first plane hit, his wife called to ask if he was okay. He said, "Yeah, why wouldn't I be? Oops." I say either way because although he got busted and blew up his marriage, at least he was alive. Franz Ferdinand. One man's death led to a few more. Ron Goldman was returning some sunglasses to Nicole Brown Simpson, but she was being murdered by O.J. Simpson, so Ron got murdered too. When I was a teenager, I stopped at a closed petrol station around 3 AM after a road trip with my friends to clean up my car. Spent about 5 minutes and left. Petrol station got robbed about 15 minutes later and cops turned up to my house to arrest me the following day. This is loosely how the movie My Cousin Vinny starts. McFerris, a London coach driver who died instantly when a window fell out of a high-rise and struck him. https://www.bbc.co.uk/news/UK-England-London-4571863 right square bracket open bracket https://www.bbc.co.uk News England London 45,718,638